Welcome back to Pod by the BAE. I am Seth Varnadore, joined by my April Fools, Anthony Vito and Robert Steeg. Remember, Pod by the BAE is brought to you by Homefield Apparel. You can use our code BAE15 for 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com. Vito's wearing a beautiful Homefield shirt. You can also find an affiliate link in the description if you've already been to Homefield. That just helps us both out. So check out the link in the description if you've already taken advantage of this offer. And if not, use our code BAE15 for 15% off your first order. Again, that's at homefieldapparel.com. Fellas, there's always a lot going on in the spring. You guys went live on Friday to cover Brian Hodson's opening press conference. And during that, you mentioned you had a question about some bad news. We didn't really want to spoil the party too much there. So let's talk. We'll lead off with a little bad news tonight. So let's talk the Goodness Iredia news. Steve.
Yeah.
Goodness did some bad things.
Did a very bad thing. For those unaware, Goodness Iredia was popped for doping. Took a few
sprinter
bands.
on the track team, correct?
Yes. Sprinter and triple jumper. Triple jumper and long jumper.
Okay, so my bad. A jumper on the track team.
He's also, so if USF does multiple 4x100s or 4x400s, he also steps in, which was cool. Not cool anymore. He
had so much energy for some reason.
Yeah. So to put this into perspective, he set a USF record and a conference record for a 7.9 meter long jump at a invitational in February. However, 2 weeks before that, he took a piss test and came back with some steroids in it. So now, first off, he admitted to it, which I guess, consolation prize, good thing. So his ban is now reduced, which is good. The bad news is he's never going to compete basically ever again. Pretty much done with track unless something monumental happens. He's also a jumper for the Nigerian national team. So it made really big headlines there because he was making enough strides to compete nationally in the Olympics in the coming years and was coached there. But got popped. So his sentence, or his ban was reduced from 4 years to 3 years. And then all of his records from January 31st to current were scrubbed from the record book. So he's already off the online roster. I know that the record books are also getting scrubbed there. So that sucks. That's awful news for many of reasons. And probably the most paramount is this was a non-NCAA test. This was just a track and field test that the AIU put in, the Athletes for Integrity Union. So he got popped for that, which means now the NCAA can scrutinize and really go after USF for anything, really. This happened a few years ago when Charlie Strong cheated and brought in more analysts than he should. And then they came and found out that Jose Fernandez was not keeping compliant on the practices and the amount that they were supposed to be having, which resulted in his suspension for a game a couple of years ago. So all that being mined and all that being put into perspective, this now means that the NCAA can come in and say, we have probable cause to investigate USF athletics. At a time where USF is looking for a president, at a time where USF is building an on-campus football stadium and spending a lot of money there, the NCAA basically has probable cause to leave no stone unturned. I mentioned a few things like weed, kids might get popped for. Obviously, any banned substances or drugs, kids might get popped for. It's bad.
Are we? I don't know if there's been any look or anything about on this or not. Was this something he knowingly took that he knew was illegal? Or was it like, because there is sometimes where guys get popped for stuff where they're saying, "Oh, I took something over the counter that had something in it."
You know, that's a really good question because I can speak from my experience that
Because I know the training staffs are hardcore
yeah,
about what you take, but guys still go take some stuff sometimes that is not approved.
yeah, it's basically told, and this is for basically every Division One school, that if you need Advil, if you need any sort of medication, if you need to get checked for something, whatever it is, there, if you have gonorrhea, you go to your athletic trainer because they will give you the medication that you need that is not banned. Like it's the surefire way. So for an athlete to take a banned substance, you have to basically be doing it willingly because especially for a steroid, you're if you're nursing an injury, all of your injuries are covered by USF as far as what you're supposed to be taking and how often you're supposed to be taking it and how it's prescribed. So there is no excuse for that. He knew that he cheated. He knew that he was taking a steroid. He knew that he was taking a banned substance. And now we don't have a long jumper, which sucks. But, what can you do?
Yeah. So, not a great news, but beyond just losing somebody that was, getting points and really good for track, the extra scrutiny, like you said, Steeg, is kind of probably even the worst part of that. So that's bad news. Let's move to good news. Vito, you were at the Hodson press conference. You asked a beautiful question, and have been referenced, and your question's been referenced by a few people. What was your? I wasn't here, so what was kind of your, for both of you guys, what's been your takeaway from kind of being a few days out now? Anything you've heard? First impressions, now maybe second impressions of the hire and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we kind of did when we did the live stream. It was in the middle of the day. And Steeg pretty much nailed it. These press conferences are just home runs from the get go. Like, it's really easy to say the right things, get the right interest among the people. You have VIP there, you have media there. Everyone's very positive when a new hire like this happens. So anything you say, you're trying to use all those buzzwords to get on in, to churn excitement for what the situation. And this is a very different situation than a coach got fired or coach moved on, obviously, and that was addressed. And we even addressed it as like, don't compare Coach Hodgson to Amir, but he mentioned that the benchmark is set, and he just wants to elevate that for what he's done. Yeah, honestly, we were all chatting about different questions to ask him, and no one really asked him straight up basketball questions. So that kind of worked itself out. Do you like that kind of like it? It felt really interesting. And it's just one of those like that soundbite that everyone loves to hear because you're talking about the sport. You're talking about these are the positive things I'm looking for. Everyone loves flashy shooting. Everybody loves high octane offense. That's what he's going to bring. I've really liked so far what he's done. And then he mentioned he was going to in the next few days assemble his staff, and it looks like he did. By assembling his staff, I mean just pretty much bringing everybody from Arkansas State over.
What is it? Control V. Bring staff from Arkansas State staff. It'll be easy for putting the bios together. You just go over to Arkansas State and do a big copy and paste it.
Here's the thing with basketball, out of all sports, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if you built something at Arkansas State, which isn't like a historical powerhouse, you likely can bring some of those players over, teach them what the system is to help coach everybody else that you're bringing in. And if you got the staff in, you already know that you trust them. Why not? I mean, I'm not saying that, okay, a Sunbelt school and the American, it's like outside of Memphis, American is the American. They beat 2 American Athletic Conference teams, including Memphis at Memphis. Why not? So I really like how he pretty much said, hey, I'm going to get my staff settled in quickly, got it done quickly. He was able to convince CJ Brown to stay. They got some more transfers in. They're looking at a lot more. It's really early to tell, but there's some real positive momentum, and I personally enjoyed the press conference, everything he said, and everything that's happened so far. But it's been a week or almost a week, Steve. What do you think?
Sorry, I was distracted. It's been good. There's too much going on. No, the key for Hodgson here, it's exciting that he's bringing over the staff with him. It's exciting that he's bringing over a lot of some of the players and some of the commits that they've had. But it also, requires to have a little bit of an elevated recruiting and stature to it as well. So, like, I don't want to control C, control V Arkansas State to USF just with bigger resources. I would like for him to start reaching outside the pond a little bit, to bring in, some additional guys and not just bring that in. But, for the first week and for everything he has to do, hit the ground running, get guys to commit to USF when he barely even knows what road the school is on at this point, and start to get things going that way. It's a pivotal time. And, on the one hand, you have plenty of time. You have until whenever to get your roster filled out. But at the same time of things, you definitely don't want to just sit on your hands here. You have a bunch of responsibilities as a coach to, help your staff get settled and make your rounds with the players and everything like that, and schmooze boosters and do all the X's and O's things on top of learning the lay of the land. So it's definitely a trial by fire for him, but at least he's starting to really start making some progress, at least externally too. We could talk about it in the Ponderosa, but it's paramount for him to kind of do what Goalish did. It's very unhealthy, but you just got to hit the ground running. Like, the wife and the kid, or the fiance and the kid, might be back in Jonesboro packing up the house a little bit for the move, but he's got to be here to hit the ground running and do the things that he needs to do. He is his best support at this point.
Yeah, which he seems to be doing a pretty good job of kind of hitting the ground running. So I did have a question for you guys, or more of something I saw, and then you could tell me if you guys agree or disagree. So, like, just watching him at the presser, watching him interact with the media afterwards, it's like him and Goalish are either going to be best friends or bitter enemies, because they seem very similar to me in terms of personality. Is that the impression you got?
They feel like very like the same guy, like kind of same mannerisms, everything like that.
Yeah,
Goalish was at least at the start. I saw him. I did see him at the presser before it started, but I feel like you're right. And you always kind of get the vibe that everybody wants to get along, and then, like, obviously Jose on the women's side, you guys are sharing complex. So, but they're close in age. I mean, they kind of have this a very similar, storyline, how they work their way up through their respective sports. So it'd be great if they work together, and sometimes you can get some dual fan engagement or VIP or donor engagement situations together. But yeah, I'm kind of with you there. It felt very similar to when Goalish was hired.
Steve, what do you think? You think it seemed? That's what struck me. I'm like, this guy seems a lot like Goalish in terms of personality. Like, not only just kind of the personality, the kind of upfront, straightforward, but also like attacking offense, high octane offense. Want to be on the attack, play fast. I thought there's a lot of similarities between the two.
Yeah,
ribbing at their opponents.
Yeah, I mean, it's a newfangled way of doing things. Is to be as blunt and approachable as possible.
Yeah, not afraid to ruffle feathers. Either. Right. That was my other takeaway. Like, this dude's not afraid. That's Goalish, I think, is very honest and upfront, and sometimes maybe too much for his own.
Right. It's funny because their mannerisms are very similar too. Because I was thinking about this, like, Goalish doesn't really shy down from a question ever. He will give an answer 100% right off his chest. There is no, oh, what should I say, or anything like that. He very much tells you exactly what he wants to tell you. That may or may not be the truth. He would be phenomenal at, like, the traders, because he could just let it rip. And Hodgson seems kind of the same way too. I've listened to his previous interviews and everything. He seems like a real straight shooter. Like I said, blunt but approachable is probably the best way I would describe both of them. which means press conferences are just going to be hell for us. Like these guys are like straight up. They're great for fans because they'll tell you exactly what you want to hear every single week for the rest of your life. But it's also mind-numbing because they're telling you exactly what you want to hear. But we don't want to hear what we want to hear because we want to hear like, hey, what's going on? You know, tell us the details. And of course, they're never going to tell us that. But you know, the intangibles though, he hit a bunch of the good things to say during press conferences. Brought up his smoking hot wife. Said that this felt like the right job for me. You know, really kind of tugged at all the heartstrings. Like I said during the after presser, I was like, these are the easiest opportunities to just do nothing but positive PR, and there is never any negative PR to it.
I think what you take out of these opening pressers, if it's bad, that's a big problem.
Yes.
If it's good, that's kind of how it's supposed to go.
Right. You will know when they're bad.
It's almost like Adam Gates with the Jets, where he's just looking around.
Yeah.
Like when the memes come out of the opening press conference, it's usually not a good sign. I think those guys are 0 for the century.
Yeah, when marketing has to do like damage control more so than a celebration of a hire, then it's like, oh boy.
Yeah. So I think all good on that front. And speaking of Coach Golish, and we were going to talk a little bit more basketball in the Ponderosa. We'll talk some of the guys that Steeg and I spoke about it initially on first when the hires first made, some names that, hey, these are the guys you might want to steal from Arkansas State. And then you guys touched on it on Friday. We'll go in depth some stats on some of the transfer portal guys and then look at some of the freshmen that have flipped to USF. That'll be in the Ponderosa. So we just spoke about Alex Golish. Let's move on to spring football. Steeg, you attended a practice. Did you learn a lot? Did you get to watch a lot of stretching?
So much stretching. Actually, learned quite a bit. Some may not be able to discuss here, but the team, at least, the initial thing that I noticed right away was a lot less coaching and a lot more player-led discussions and talks and instructions, which if eagle-eyed and eagle-eared viewers will remember, that was one thing that Golish really talked about was, you know, we want to get a player-led team. That's part of the next step for development. So going out there, you know, I've been out to spring practices for USF once or twice. Usually it's a lot of very specific instructions given by the coaches. This time around, it was really like explaining what the drill is and then just executing it and doing it. There was no 2-3 minutes of explaining and walking through and everyone does a quick walkthrough. It was straight away right into it, which was super nice. Some other observations, 3 guys in red non-contact jerseys, Kashawn Singleton, Weston Wolf, and Ashton Mosley. None of them were in braces. None of them were in slings, no knee sleeves or anything like that. Golish did let us know after during the presser that there are guys that are coming off of injuries and are holy crap, you are just through 6 straight strikeouts. Sorry.
Yay.
He's crushing right now. Golish did let us know that there are 15 guys that are coming off of off-season injuries, and all but 2 of them are not going to play in the spring game. So
do you anticipate this being a pretty pared down spring game like the first one?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be
where it was kind of no. There was no receivers in that first one. By the time
they got there was nothing happening. Sorry, let me fire off a tweet real quick.
So the player led thing. What's interesting about that, right, is first of all, that's an old coaching saying, right? Is like when like good teams, like bad teams, nobody leads. Good teams, coaches lead. Great teams, the players lead. But then also, that's like if you have players coaching other players, usually that's a good sign of like standards within the program have been set. because a guy that's been there in the program will say, hey, man, that's not how we do it. We do it this way. Right. And that's what you're really trying to get to. When you get to that point, you feel like you're in a pretty good place. So
Yes,
if they're there, and then also, like you said, they're not having to coach the drills because the guys have gone through the drills. It's not everyone's first time. Guys can kind of pick it up and you can go. That's always helpful too, because that's more time to actually do things. Right. So that's what a sharp eye you've got, Steve.
that's what I do. But yeah, other than that, just
Nimrod caught a nice touchdown.
Yeah.
I think I saw a picture. It looked like Jaquan Smith might have caught a touchdown too.
Yeah,
so
probably doing a few catches. The thing that I did also notice was that the offense looks very in sync. Even Lachlan, a true freshman, we only got a little bit of their passing drills, but they all look very much in rhythm with the wide receivers. Not much downtime on the curls or anything like that. Ball comes out super quick, sometimes to a fault. So yeah, I mean, overall, we're not going to see much. They purposefully don't do a lot in the media portion of the viewing.
It's the same drills every time, probably.
They did do one new drill actually. I thought it was super cool, and I really wish I had a way to draw it. They practiced tackling through traffic. So basically, they had like 6 guys running across the field, and then a running back, and then a defender who would run towards each other. And they were just in shells, so they didn't do like any actual hitting or anything. But it was like, be prepared for guys to come across you and then make a tackle right in front of them. I thought that was a very interesting drill because they did get popped a few times on that. Guy going in on a little bit of flow and so outside of that, it's just a normal practice.
For the most part in spring, no news is good news, like unless you're gonna hear like somebody's killing it, but for the most part, like no injuries, nothing major, usually okay.
Yeah, super real quick, just because we've been doing this forever. It feels like, but every podcast is somebody's first. What if no one really knows what to expect from spring football, and they're just like, hey, it's more football. What do you expect, or a fan expect? What's the best situation coming out of spring? What do you want to hear? What do you want to see? Or is it just one of those, just like, hey, they're getting practicing because that time of year and they get so much of it. Don't read into anything.
I think best case scenario, right, from what you want to hear from Golish at the end is like, we got a lot of good work. Nobody got hurt. And that's really it. Like if you get those things, if you really come out healthy, and you had your guys able to go through the full gamut of practice, I think you're probably pretty happy at the end there because, this is a staff I think you trust for the most part. So you're really kind of worried about health at this point, and then we'll see if they do anything in the upcoming transfer portal, but. I don't anticipate them doing a whole ton, but who knows? It might depend on who jumps in.
I might have thrown a portal related thing in there. If anyone wants to read that in the Ponderosa,
Man, how do I get the Ponderosa again? You got some juicy details in there.
Yeah, Patreon.com/Bay Area Examiner. $5 a month to get you access to the Discord where Steeg puts all his juicy nuggets. And then $10 get you an extra podcast, which we're going to record after this. So, and if you're listening to this, and you pay for the Ponderosa on the Patreon and you don't know what Discord is, please email us or DM us or let us know, because that's the best place to be to get all your information. And, we feel kind of bad when some people don't realize that, there's another app where all this information's going, and then they join and go, oh my gosh, I've been missing all of this. So if you haven't been getting that, make sure you reach out to us. Yeah, it's our version of the message board basically, but all other message boards that are kind of tied to national recruiting sites are like $10 a month. You can get ours, and I think information's pretty similar, if not better, for $5 a month. So half the cost, same info or better. Seems like a good deal. And if you want to do the full $10, you get extra podcasts each week. So Good stuff there. So I think that's it for football for now. Let's get to some of the bat sports, Steeg.
Yeah, thank God this game just finally went final.
Talk about it. Live. Let's hear it.
Ooh, 9-7. Ooh.
For those that are also in the Discord, I most of the time I don't do it too often. I do them in my free time. I do little rundowns of the oppositions for both the bat sports for baseball and softball. And I specifically said, don't sleep on this Bethune-Cookman team. They can score, and score they did. They had 2 home runs on the evening. USF won 9-7, which was good. Got a little hairy at the end. They were leading 9-5, so on and so forth. It's midweek baseball. Midweek baseball is the best thing on television. We started our for Seth's favorite bit. We started the true baby Nolan Bernard.
That is my favorite bit going.
Our 12-year-old right-handed pitcher. He actually didn't pitch that well. Went barely over 1 inning, 4 hits, 4 runs. Did not play well. But USF as a whole pitched very well, very young. He's only 30 years old. USF as a whole did very well, though. They're on their 6th straight win as they welcome Memphis into this weekend. How did they get to 6 straight wins? Great comment, Vito. They swept Tulane in baseball, which had not happened since I've been alive.
That was huge. Out of nowhere, seemingly.
Yeah. Shut him down on the pitching. Got plenty of hits, plenty of extra base hits as well to get a 3-game sweep against Tulane. Tulane came into a reeling, and if you know anything about me and how I've been covering USF, I always say if a team is coming in reeling, that's usually a really bad sign for USF. That usually means that we're the get-right moment for them. But not in this case, and not in this case. Mitch Hannes is doing a good job of managing his pitching staff, which is pretty shorthanded. Did not have to go deep into the bullpen in any of the games, which is fantastic. Corey Braun on Friday night pitched a complete game. Hadn't happened in a while.
Someone in the Discord threw in the nickname the Braun Mower.
It's a very good one,
and that was
Braun. Put
what
that
a
on
great
a shirt.
nickname.
What an absolute game that was. I mean, complete game, 2 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. That's just, and he pitched 121 pitches. He let him, Hannes let him go. I know some players, I think we did a joke that he pitched more than any Rays starter has in probably a decade.
First 9-inning complete game shutout for a USF pitcher since 2019. He was also named Conference Pitcher of the Week. And Marcus Brodo was named Conference Player of the Week. Went 6 for 10 with 3 run scores, 2 doubles, and 4 RBIs.
And Steeg called both of them.
Look at you.
Well, I mean, it's also super easy. But
after the win on Friday, Steeg said, all right, he's got Pitcher of the Week. And then someone else posted on Monday, he won Pitcher of the Week. I'm like, buddy, old news. Steeg already said it from the future.
I did get really worried someone from the ECU staff, because ECU had a pretty light week. I was like, someone on the ECU staff is going to throw a fucking perfect game or some shit like that.
So, speaking of ECU, they are first in the conference. USF is tied for second currently in the conference. Now, it's early, but ECU 6-0. UTSA and South Florida are both 5-1. So, good start to the old conference slate here, Steve. What are you expecting kind of coming up for the baseball team? It's hard to say they're going to never lose again, right? But where do you kind of expect this team to shake out? Are they ahead of schedule for you, or are they about where you thought they'd be?
They're a little ahead of schedule. I think that they're stingy is the best way to call them. They're certainly not great. They're good though, and I think there's a big difference between those. The positives about this team is that they're absolutely electric at the plate. Like they really have it going. You have a really solid Friday starter in Braun. Bryce Archie's been fantastic. Corey Kling has been a good little opener for him. They have what I would consider to be like 5 quality pitchers, and then a lot of pitching behind them, which is a big issue. You kind of have to make an escape out of it every once in a while in order to pull out a win. I don't think they're going to get many sweeps. They're going to win a lot of series. They're not going to get a lot of sweeps because of that. You're going to get very rare instances where Corey Braun can do a complete game. On Saturday, you get Bryce and Kling for the entire 9 innings, and then you have the rest of your bullpen for Sunday. Those are very rare instances. So to me, that's their biggest hurdle at this point is, can someone in that pitching room, besides like a Jack Nedro or something, step up, get 4 to 5 quality innings out of work, and then allow someone else to come in to kind of chip away until the end? Because right now, most of the staff can't get more than like 2 or 3 innings out of work.
Well, here's an interesting thing. I just wanted to pivot off of this because I did a little light research because we were a research university. For a while there, they had trouble with obviously really great Friday night starter. That Saturday was kind of on again, off again about if they were going to be great. The past 3 Saturdays that they've won has been the combination of Brandon Keister as the opener and Bryce Archie as the long man.
Keister not Kling, yes.
It looks like it's working. And whether he pitches 1 inning, 2 innings, 3 innings, and then Bryce Archie comes in relief. And like, I'm not saying the Rays started it, but kind of made it famous having the opener come in. You don't feel like you're a starter. You don't have to come all the way in. You get through, 2 cycles of the lineup, and then all of a sudden you bring in the long man. And I think Bryce Archie is really, that's Hawaii Bowl champion Bryce Archie, really has taken that role and ran with it. And they've won their last 3 Saturdays with that. And I think that really helps because if you're winning on Friday and then you lose on Saturday, you go into that rubber match trying to feel like you need it. But they've been the pitching has been good since they've shaken that up. But I think you're right. If they have to go deep into the bullpen, that doesn't spell good for USF because of, I don't want to say the lack of arms, but just the not as consistent that we've seen anyway from the back end of that bullpen. But guess who they play this weekend?
Memphis.
Guess how many wins Memphis has in conference?
None.
Gonna be great.
How many wins are gonna get this weekend? All 3. No.
Damn it.
It seems like you're set up to make a good run here. You got Memphis. I'm not sure how good Stetson is this year, but that's your midweek game next week. And then you got Rice, who is – so Memphis and Rice are the bottom 2 teams in the conference right now. Memphis is not won a game in conference, but they're 11-16 overall. Rice is 6-23 overall.
And 1-5
in conference. So, depending on how you do in the Stetson game, you've got a chance to kind of keep it rolling here going into a game in a couple weeks against Florida State, which will be interesting. But you've got a chance to kind of make a little run here in the conference, I think, just because you play some bottom dwellers, and then you play Charlotte, who's kind of near you. Charlotte, Wichita State after that. So maybe good enough to make some noise here, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly can. The thing is, it's within their own abilities. If they consistently win the series, their weekend series, they're in very, very good, a really, really good spot to do an unthinkable thing. I'm not going to mention at this point. As it currently stands on WarrenNolan.com, they have them going 33-21 overall, 17-10 in conference, which would be a phenomenal first season under Mitch Hannes. The thing is as good as these predictions can look at times, they still got to win the games. Like we said, they don't have really many left-handed pitchers that can give them quality opportunities at this point, which is probably going to be their downfall. Anytime you have to get into that third game of a series and you only have right-handed pitchers, you basically can only really give them an inning, and just hope and pray that nothing snowballs from there, which they've been good at doing that so far this year. There's not a lot of snowballing been happening, but most people have been able to notice somewhat of a high-scoring affair every once in a while. The bats have been good. The bats have been consistent. When the bats aren't consistent, that's where I get a little worried about their prospects this year.
All right, and then where do they kind of sit in RPI now?
They
There's-
live
they're-
RPI has them 37th.
Not
Okay,
bad
so-
at all.
No, so that's interesting. 37th. Are they 37th in both? They're 39th in softball. Okay, so 37th in baseball, 39th in softball right now.
That's incredible.
I think the record, like with their strength of schedule so far, I think you have to feel like they're ahead of schedule. I know I asked you about that earlier, but it seems like their schedule has been pretty tough. Top like 25 schedule by almost every kind of metric you look at. And to be 17-9 at this point, it's pretty good. So, all right, Steeg, softball now. We just mentioned they are 39th in RPI. This was one that kind of last time we talked about it, we felt pretty good that if they kind of continued on their trajectory, they'd have a good chance at an at-large if they kind of took care of business. Are you still feeling that way? Or are they kind of doing the women's basketball thing where they kind of screwing around a little bit?
Yeah, it's been a known thing if you pay attention in our softball threads that this softball team is statistically really good. They get a ton of strikeouts, they get a ton of hits, they get a ton of great fielding plays every once in a while. I think they're like top 5 in the NCAA in double plays. So you look at this team and you're like, okay, they should be like really good, and their projections, because these statistics are really good. They're predicted to go 41-15 and that one tie against Wichita. The predicted RPI of 39. They're currently at 39, so keeping it even keeled. A pretty good strength of schedule. There's it looks like they're 65th or 55th in non-conference strength of schedule. So like all a bunch of pretty good metrics when you look at them on paper. And then you watch their games and you're like, they're missing like the X factor of the team. To me, it feels a lot like how the Rays had been the last like 4 years, where you're like, all right, like you got a bunch of grinders. You should have a good pitching staff, but the pitching staff just has not been situationally good this year. For as many strikeouts as Peyton Dixon has given up, she's also given up a ton of hits, and a lot of them in really bad situations. Bell kind of has a similar problem where she gets a ton of strikeouts, but she's also walking a ton of girls, and then a bloop single turns into an RBI single at that point. So like, it's just these situational opportunities for USF softball are kind of slipping away from them. And that Sunday game against Wichita State is probably the prime example of it. They got themselves into an awful 7-2 deficit going into the 7th inning and just looked awful. They left the bases loaded twice. They gave up so many 2-out hits, gave up 2 home runs to the same girl when they really shouldn't have been pitching to her. And as a result, 7-2 going into the 7th inning. And then the Wichita State pitcher, who had pitched 143 pitches on Friday, was at 141 pitches, gave up a 3-run home run, and then gave up a 2-run home run to tie the game. And then you got drop dead. And so the game couldn't finish because you had a 10-7 lead at that point in the top of the 8th inning and couldn't finish the game. And I think that's probably the biggest microcosm of this team right now, is that they just situationally get themselves into a bad process, and they might have a good outcome because of it. They have some great wins against like ECU. They had a great win against Wichita. They had run rules against Stetson and swept Charlotte and all these other things. And then you look in like a bad loss to UAB when they were leading 6-1 in the 7th inning. They lost to Siena 6-1 during midweek action. Like, you just have a lot of these dumb mistakes that are going to start piling up for them at a time they really can't afford to slip up, because the more that they slip up, once they're out of the top 40 on RPI, the less likely they're going to get an at-large at that point.
Well, how important is this series this weekend? So they're at FAU, who is 26 in RPI and leading the conference. It seems like if you could somehow go in and win that series, you've got Tulsa and Memphis following that up, which are both pretty terrible by the metrics. Then you'll play at Florida, and then North Texas, who's pretty good but not amazing. They're similar to Wichita State team you just played, and then UTSA is not very good. So if you can kind of go through and win this weekend series, you've probably got a good chance to make a little run, right? But that's going to be a tough ask.
Mm-hmm. That it's got to require. We're going to have vintage Peyton Dixon. And I say vintage. We need like last year's Bell Sarja at the helm. Currently, Warren Nolan has USF winning this series against Florida Atlantic 2-3, or 2 games
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3. But like when I looked at this yesterday, like it was a Florida Atlantic sweep. So this is a pivotal series because you can't get swept. You can lose the series and you'll probably be fine. But you can't get swept the rest of the way. You're going to have a loss against Florida. We all know it. You're probably going to drop a game against North Texas just because that's at North Texas. But, you got to sweep Tulsa. You got to sweep Memphis, and you got to sweep UTSA. If you can't sweep those 3 teams, then you're not made for postseason play at that point.
This could be the conference crown right here. Just looking at FAU's schedule after this, it's North Texas, who you play as well, East Carolina, who's 99th in RPI, and then Memphis and Tulsa, which are Memphis is 221st in RPI and Tulsa is 141. So this is kind of your chance. I think you're at 8-3-1 and they're at 11-1 or something like that. So this is kind of your chance to kind of draw even with them with kind of what you both have coming up. So sorry, Vito, go ahead.
No, you're good. It just kind of stinks when you go like you got to sweep, because that is hard to do, especially on the road. You could beat a team and destroy them and 2 straight run rules, and then 1 game just gets out of hand. Bloop single here, a couple errors, which not shocking to me. But with the American softball this year, Florida Atlantic top at 11-1, USF 8-3-1, North Texas is 7-5, and then after that, no one else is above 500. And if you look at it overall, only the top 4 are above 500. East Carolina, North Texas, USF, and Florida Atlantic. Like, that's crazy to then turn around and say, okay, yeah, you drop a game to UTSA, you drop a game to Memphis, you drop a game to UAB. Yeah, the RPI is not going to like that. Advanced analytics are not going to like that because they're just not there. It really stinks that game ended up in a tie, and I totally get the rules, and you stick with it because you can't say, oh no, well, we're ahead, so let's go ahead and keep going. It's like, you have to stick with those rules, but it would have been really great to kind of end that with a W, because Wichita State on the road, that's a tough one. It's another one of those situations where in the bat sports, you open up with all of these home games and some neutral site games, and then you start playing these conference games on the road, so you have a small sample size of what your road team is. And so it's like, what, USF is 20-7 at home and 6-3-1 away. It's like there's not a lot there. So it's hard to then go on the road and say, we're going to go to Denton. I don't even know where Denton is. So I kind of know where Denton is. I'm kidding. It's not is it the Super Pit baseball version? I don't know. It's just like, it's tough to see that. But you have a really great series ahead of you. So go ahead and grab that proverbial win or series by the horns.
They control their destiny. Mm-hmm. That's it. There is no hoping or praying or anything like that. This is it. You have it right in front of you. You beat Florida Atlantic in 3 games. Everything is in front of you there at that point, and you should not lose much more outside of this weekend. So what you see of this USF softball team is what you're getting right now. And on one hand, you couldn't ask for anything better. On the other hand, I could ask for a lot better. I could do a compare and contrast from last year. They are not as good pitching, and that's a big problem this year.
As Adrian Balboa said from the hospital bed, win. Just win. All right, let's talk now. Men's tennis, Steeg, has been a bright spot. It's a jam-packed show so far here, but we wanted to hit on a couple of teams at the end here that have been doing really well. Just give me your quick thoughts and kind of give us a quick update on men's tennis and then the lacrosse team. We want to hit on both those. They're having pretty good conference slate so far. So give us a little bit of info on both those teams real quick, men's tennis and ladies lacrosse.
Yeah. Men's tennis is on an absolute tear right now. They have won their last 9 games or last 9 matches, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What is that? 15 out of their last 16. Yeah. That only blemish so far has been the loss at the number 2 ranked team in the country, TCU. So all things considered, they're doing extremely well right now. It's a shame. We talked about it for like a half second earlier today. It's a shame that Charlotte and Liberty aren't as good as their preseason projections were, because these 2 matches could have been like pivotal, like shining moments for them, and instead it's just kind of like a routine win for them at this point. But yeah, they're a very, very solid team right now. I had a feeling that this team might have been very special with Hugo Carr on court 1, but they're proving to have their dividends and then more. They are ranked number 28 today, and then Hugo Carr is, I think, got himself in the top 50 for singles. He's either 48 or 50, I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, they're cruising, man. They're looking really good. They're looking really confident, which is probably the most important thing as well. 4 different USF men's tennis players have been honored as Player of the Week. So that's also fantastic to see, because it's not just, we have a good number 1 and then not much else behind them. We've had multiple guys so far this year go on stretches of undefeated singles matches and undefeated doubles matches. So, occasionally a slip up here and there, but nothing of concern. So they're in a really good spot right now. No one else can really touch them in the conference, which is just unreal to think about. Their biggest competition is probably Florida Atlantic, and they're kind of on a slip right now. So they're closing the season on the road. They're going to Middle Tennessee, and then they have a final match at UAB before conference tournament starts. They're probably going to be in the NCAA tournament regardless. Hugo Carr is probably also going to be competing in singles. He might have a chance to go really far in the singles bracket. That one I'm going to circle and pay attention to and watch, because he has made some unbelievable upsets this year on court 1. So
he was the JUCO national champion, right?
He was, and his UTR and ITA ratings are super high right now. Like, not necessarily like
those sound terrible.
Yeah, ITA, UTR,
if you mix up some of those letters, you're in trouble.
No, he's cruising. Like I like, not national championship winning. Like he's not that good. Like, but like
make a little noise in the tournament.
Make a noise. Be a good mid-major kind of thing.
So let's lacrosse. After you take your quick sip of your drink to refresh, where we at with lacrosse? I thought I saw rumors of a ranking. Is that? I was trying to confirm that. Was that an April Fool's joke or?
Yeah, we joked around about that. Everything we see today, I'm like, is it real? Did someone just make a graphic?
I did get got by something earlier, and I'm glad no one saw it. I tweeted it, and it was bad. But yeah, they it was a real ranking. They're ranked in the top 25 of a lacrosse poll.
There you go.
I don't know. I usually go off of like whatever is like the first one that pops up for like the NCAA. I don't know what it is.
Is it the Coley matrix or something like that?
It's lax numbers. I hadn't heard them before.
There you go. It counts.
They have him at number 25. Fellow conference mate James Madison is right above them at 24. On a pretty good little win streak here of 1, 2, 3. What is this? 6 straight wins. A lot of them in crushing, just debilitating metrics. Started it off with a 19-5 win over St. Bonaventure, a 20-4 win over Xavier, a 16-8 win over Bucknell, 15-9 against Temple, 23-9 against East Carolina, and then 17-7 against Vanderbilt. So they're looking really good at this point, undefeated in conference, 3-0. They have all of what I would consider to be the intangibles. Obviously, Minnie McCord's speed of play and pace of play is really paying their dividends at times. For those that have been paying attention this year, they can sometimes get lost in the sauce a little bit against like Florida and Towson. Too many substituting and too many changes kind of breaks up the rhythm. But they're a star-studded team at this point. Just constant weekly honors for this group. Sofia Chepanik is wonderful at everything she does.
Mm-hmm.
What a pickup. Like that. I can't believe that still, that like one of the best women's lacrosse players in the country decided to come to USF. Blows my mind.
Must be a fun feeling to say, hey, I can start up a program and be a legend. They're sitting at 42 in the RPI. And again, we are very new to lacrosse. So seeing how this all plays out when it comes to the postseason, anything like that, who knows? But James Madison is the only other team ahead of them in the American with a 12 RPI. They're sitting at 7-4 and 2. They are also does not have their conference record. Okay. It's interesting to see that you started a whole brand new program and it hit the ground running immediately. Okay. So James Madison is also 3-0 in conference, 7-4 overall. So that I guess means that they had a much harder out of conference slate so far in the season. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how this works. Do we even know is there a conference tournament situation? Do we know what happens at the end of the year? And this is just me asking questions. I know I can do the research, but this is everyone's first. So it does look like there's a conference championship. It will be in Norfolk, Virginia.
Yeah,
May 1st through 3rd.
Oh, there you go. I'll travel up there. I'll visit my brother as well. So, I'll make the trek up and cover some lacrosse. I'm obviously a lax expert. I like some boots on the ground. Am I right? Yeah. So pretty cool. Like you guys said, pretty cool to be kind of first year. It seems like they're still getting pretty good crowds. Yeah. John Harbaugh's bebopping around in there. So
taking pictures with some patrons even, and a friend of the pod, Heath, has been going to games and has been doing a good job doing some game threat action in there. So it's good to see.
Yeah. So if you join the Discord, you can find access to about 15 ongoing game threads at the same exact time that Steeg kind of try to rifle through. So that's fun. So all right, without any further ado, again, visit homefieldapparel.com and use our code BAE15 to get yourself 15% off your first order, or use the affiliate link in the description below at homefieldapparel.com. Get yourself a nice shirt. Whole host of schools in there, but some really cool USF stuff in there. So check that out. They sponsor us here at Pod by the Bay. So BA15 for 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com. Join us in the Discord, in the Ponderosa section of the Discord to get all Steeg's nuggets at patreon.com/Bay Area Examiner. Find us there. Join us for extra podcasts. Thank you guys for listening. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.